What is going on, guys?
Hey, how's it going?
Today, I am going to be bringing you three more essential Christian metal albums for any metal fan out there, and especially the Christian metal fans. But let us get to it without further ado. Now, this is, I guess, technically a part two of, or the second episode in the series, which this will not be the final episode either. There's plenty more to be had in this Christian metal genre. So if you guys have not seen the first video, I will put the link to the first video right here and also in the description below. So check that out then after this video. But first, we are going to be going to a little band here called Bride and their album Snakes in the Playground. This band here, this album came out in 1992. So there is another album that we're going to be talking about that also came out here in the early 90s. Well, both of them, all three of them came out technically in the early 90s, but 92, 93 is that strange era for metal. That the hair metal was certainly coming out, was losing favor at this time. Even thrash metal was starting to lose favor at the time in the 91, 92 era, and they were starting to change as well. Just grunge in general just was coming in, and that was the new thing.
Kurt Cobain. He's the one ghost nobody wants to hang out with. He's a bummer.
Some of these bands here, plenty of bands that stayed the course, but also there were some that were changing. But these albums here that I'm talking about today, they stayed the course. They did not change, at least for the year 1992 and 1993. So, but here, Snakes on the Playground, though, very good. Jason Robeson from Wrath of Typhon, he recommended this album to me as well about a month ago or so. And we are doing an episode solely just for this album, a review of it. But I just had to talk about it today though in this video because this album is so good. It did actually win best song, I believe, for Rattlesnake, the opening track. In the Dove, like the Christian Metal Awards. They won the award for that song as well. So yeah, but you also have "Would You Die for Me," Superdelic Super Jesus. You had two ballads on here. The last track, "Goodbye," and then also "I Miss the Rain." Two excellent ballads. This album here is, I was, I mean, I was blown away as far as like what it sounded like because if you guys follow the channel, my wheelhouse of the golden era of metal is 80s, but my favorite era within the 80s is like 89 to 1992, 1993.
Hell yes.
This sounds like what hair metal and just what hair metal, sleaze metal, hard rock was evolving into at the time. And God, it's just so good. So the Thompson brothers are great. And now also too, like I found some stuff as you can see on Boone's Overstock. Shout out to Boone's Overstock because I put in a huge ass order a couple weeks ago and picked up some things that I just did not have and that I known about for years, but just never was able to get around to it, seeing anything physical, in my area here. But I did end up picking up Bride's Show No Mercy album here on purple vinyl. And then also they had the Bride Snakes on the Playground demos too, which is pretty cool. They have some different songs on here that did not make the album, but are super good though too, and alternate versions as well. So if you guys really enjoy this album, I would suggest checking that out as well. But also too, the ninth track, Picture Perfect, super good. Really like has an attitude to it. You could even play Picture Perfect at a normal gathering, hard rock gathering, and people would be like, "Yo, what is this? This sounds awesome." Like what is this shit? So I was super impressed with it. I didn't really have no expectations because like I didn't know what really to expect. I didn't hear nothing. But other than Jason just saying, "Hey, you'll like this. Just whenever you find it, check it out." And then I came across this album in Extremities, which is a record store here around me, and I was like, "No way!" So I had to pick it up then. But yeah, guys, goodbye though. I will say the last ballad and the last track, perfect way to end off the album. Kind of has a little bit of a Tom Kiefer like a modern Tom Kiefer type vocal delivery to it. Very good stuff there. Now, he doesn't really sound like Tom Kiefer in any of the other songs, but just like when he goes down to that bare delivery, it kind of reminds me of that. But nonetheless, like there's not I can listen to this whole album the whole way through, no issues at all. And nothing I would say super in your face with, and I would even say with a lot of these songs and a lot of these albums here, nothing's really like overly preachy. Like, sure, if you're digging and looking through the lyrics and everything like that, or like looking for something, you might be able to hear something like a little preachy. But overall, though, nothing that really like makes me be like, maybe I won't show this to this person because it's like too preachy. So, but nonetheless, Snakes on the Playground, I cannot recommend this one enough as well. So it's certainly, and just Bride in general, like even the Show No Mercy album, I just played that like about 2 times since I picked it up last week, and still good. It's different than this. It's more of the straightforward metal from like, the mid 80s, early 80s. So it is a little different sounding, but it's still really, really good in its own right. But this is just more of the wheelhouse for me. And if you're been a follower here on the channel for a long time, this will be more up your wheelhouse then too.
Yo, this is your boy G Money from Rug Pull Radio, and you're watching the Krash Kourse Metal Show. Shade Lay.
All right, guys. So we are going to be staying in the more hard rock melodic type deal here, and that is going to be 1993's Tamplin or Ken Tamplin self-titled album Tamplin. This one here is actually out of everything here in this video certainly, and almost even in the first video too. This is like I had this probably the longest. This album, along with like the Sacrament and also Stryper stuff, has been a staple in the collection since I was in like high school. So like, what was I? Probably like 13, 14 or so. And then what was that? 2006, 2008 maybe. So this has been in my collection for a long time, and I hit. I never really appreciated it as much as I should have when I was younger. Now, I will say, Don't Let the Sky Fall on Me. Absolutely great song.
Hey, now you speak my language here.
That guitar tone right from the start. I bought this album when I was younger, when I was a teenager, because of that song. And as time goes on, I do enjoy more and more off of it. So, like, because even I did revisit it again for the first time in a couple years, just like a month or two ago. And I dig a lot of this album. This is really, really good stuff. Now, if anyone's familiar with Ken Tamplin, as you can see behind me here, this way, right here, with the Shout album, he was in Shout. He does like all kinds of like vocal academy stuff as well. Really good vocalist, really good guitar player too. When you think of like a guitar hero from the 80s, you don't necessarily think of Ken Tamplin. Now, really digging into his stuff here recently, more so than when I was younger and such. And I'm like, man, this kind of really flew under my radar, as far as his guitar playing, his style and stuff. But like everything that I hear, that now I'm really kind of like dissecting into his catalog recently. Really good, overlooked stuff. But yeah, like I said, Don't Let the Sky Fall on Me. That guitar tone, absolutely great. Good guitar. So it's like a bluesy song too at heart. And I absolutely dig the bluesy stuff, especially like I said, like in the hair metal, melodic metal stuff of the later 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of bands starting to push towards the rootsy bluesy sound to their rock and metal, and Tamplin here is no exception. Although it's not a whole bluesy album, it's not like I would say. Don't Let the Sky Fall on Me was probably the bluesiest song, maybe that I could think of anyway. But you have here, Slave Trade's really good. Testify is cool. Even the final track, 11 tracks total, is the 11th track is Suspicious Eyes, which is I dig that. But I will say you could probably take one or two songs off of this though, even still today, that I do end up skipping or just not having on the iPod. And I will say one of these songs that on this album that you could probably take off for me, it just doesn't make the iPod, or just gets skipped when it comes on. And that is going to be Lap of Legends. And I don't know, it's just because a couple other bands do that too, like where they like tip the cap to other greats in their genre and just music in general. Tough did that with I think All New Generation, and just other bands did it too. And it's cool for what it is, but it's just not one that I just visit or I want to really listen to. So it's just okay. But overall, though, this album did win Album of the Year, if I'm not mistaken, in the Dove Awards, 1994. So that's actually pretty impressive for like this kind of an album, the sounding album, in 1994. Because like I don't know what kind of like the Christian thing was as far as like was there grungy Christian bands that were like starting to become a thing, or like I don't know what the Christian scene was kind of like looking for or looking at as far as like mid 90s goes or early 90s, once the mainstream music started to transition and become what we remember of the grunge era.
What is going on?
But otherwise, guys, check out the song on here. Don't Let the Sky Fall on Me. Easily my favorite one. And then also Testify or Slave Trade. Pretty good stuff there, too. But the first half is certainly really, really good. Recommended to anybody. So, yeah, that is our second choice here is Tamplin's self-titled album, Tamplin. All right, so we got here now. We're moving on to 1990 first and foremost, and also we are moving into the thrashier stuff here side of metal, and that is going to be Deliverance with their second album, Weapons of Our Warfare. Now, if you're a fan of thrash metal, this is thrash. This is really, really good stuff. Now, like I said in the first video, Sacrament is like on the thrash side, but I would say a little bit more of a death metal style influence or sound to them than just straight thrash. And Deliverance is just straight thrash here on this album. The first track, though, is really cool. Supplication. I just really enjoy the like the monk or like a Knights Templar guy just kind of like saying or like talking or praying, if you will. And it's just a perfect way to set the atmosphere, set the tone for the album and such. Kind of like there's Gregorian chants, if anyone it just kind of gives me a little bit of that feel to it, like just as a minute or so intro. Really cool stuff. But the single off of this was Weapons of Our Warfare. And it did have a music video for it as well and got played on MTV, surprisingly enough. And now I will say, because when I went through my first like Christian metal phase, like when I was young, a teenager, like when I found Sacrament and Tamplin and stuff like that, I do remember seeing this video, Weapons of Our Warfare, on YouTube. And I remember seeing it, but like I said, I just was never able to find it physically anywhere or found Boone's Overstock or whatever, like just never got around to getting it. But now I finally did, and the album is really good as well. Certainly an essential for thrash metal fans and just Christian metal fans in general. The fifth track is really, really good too. Flesh and Blood, really cool. Like talk about how you're fighting evil, and you're not fighting flesh and blood. You're basically fighting evil, and really good stuff there. And then the seventh track, 23, really cool. This really reminds me of a slower mid-tempo original era Queensryche style song. Something kind of sounds like Jeff Tate, really, and that's what really gives me like the Queensryche vibe to it, and just really good. 23, kind of like just singing Bible verse throughout the whole song. Really good. Another slower one that kind of meets that atmospheric stuff, especially of the intro track. Really good there. Greetings of Death, Slay the Wicked. It got 10 tracks, and with the first kind of intro track, it's really only 9 tracks, to be honest with you, and that is good. It's quick, to the point, really heavy, really thrashy. Just along the same lines of your Megadeth, your Overkill type stuff like that. Very, big four, early 80s or mid 80s type thrash. And Deliverance, they delivered, certainly. And now they do have a couple albums, or more than a couple albums, but they did, as time moved on, they did start getting away a little bit more from the thrash, more to the progressive metal and traditional heavy metal side of things. But like I said, Deliverance. This is the first actual physical album that I have of theirs, so I'm definitely looking into getting more of their stuff. Same with Bride as well. Bride has a lot of albums as well, and it's gonna be. I'm gonna have another big order at Boone's Overstock. I will say that. So, nonetheless, but very good stuff here, guys. Deliverance, Weapons Over Warfare. If you like that thrashy stuff, I certainly highly recommend you checking this out. And like I said, in high school, I was a big thrash metal guy, big hair metal guy too. And I was finding like all this Christian metal, like there is good stuff on the Christian side of things. Like same thing with like satanic stuff, or any kind of secular, really niche type topic, I guess, if you will. There's good stuff in all of those sectors and all of those sections of or subgenres of metal too. And Christian metal is no difference. It's just is someone open enough to actually enjoy the music and try to hear what they're saying? And it's not that big a deal to me, but I mean, I will say there are different vibes to music, whether you listen to Slayer, okay? There's a different vibe to listen to Slayer than when you say put on Deliverance or Sacrament. And there's a little bit of a different vibe. It sounds the same. It can sound the same, but there is a little bit of a different vibe or energy to it. So, but that's for another topic for another time, maybe. But no, nonetheless, Deliverance, Weapons Over Warfare. Please check it out if you're a thrash metal fan. Then we also had Tamplin's 1993 self-titled album. Really good melodic hard rock stuff here. And speaking of hard rock, hair metal, what kind of like hair metal and sleaze metal kind of sounded like on hard rock at the time in 1992, 1991, not adding grunge into the equation. Bride, Snakes on the Playground. Please check that one out. Great voice, great guitar work all the way through. Great guitar work all the way through all these. But yeah, Bride, it's just there's an energy to that Bride album too, and it's just like nonstop, really good melodic, hard rock, metal, hair metal type stuff, sleazy to an extent sounding. But good stuff though. Guys, let me know in the comments too what you guys think.
Talk to me.
3 essential Christian metal albums that you think that I missed here on the first couple episodes. But like I said, we're going to be having more episodes here, so there is not going to be much that will be forgotten. But that is what we like to do here. We like to bring all the subgenres of metal, the forgotten and unknowns of the world that, that are just so underrated, so overlooked, and it's just a shame. And until next time, guys, stay out of that collateral damage. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.
Yeah, I wrote that. It's called I Want to Rock Your Body. And then in parentheses it says to the break of dawn.